This is the last video in the ZiptieAI video series. So in the previous video, I talked about for Epic 4, Advanced AI, and in this video, talk about Epic 5, Advanced Platforms, and that's the last of the epics. So Epic 5. So in the previous, this epic is not like the other epics. It's pretty much kind of future advanced things, but not so much hands-on. So let me go through the firmware. There's 4 epics. You have to excuse my confusion here. I'm trying to get the first version of these videos prepared, and this is the first time I've tried to explain this to somebody. So I apologize, but I should have in the future, after I've done this a couple of times, I'll have this more polished. So the first one is firmware development. Firmware development means that the actual firmware that's running on the Pixhawk, you are going to modify that firmware, make modifications to it. And it's not as difficult as you might think. So I went through and did a small modification myself on the PX4 where it's called a Hello Sky. So I went in and modified the PX4, compiled it, and then uploaded it to my PX4. And let me see, 14.2. See if I can get here's the Windows, the Microsoft Word file. So I had a computer with this cable, this special cable, and then on the Pixhawk, there was a cable that went to one of the connectors. And when you ran the Pixhawk on the computer, you could come in and do this command and run this simple app, which is actually running on the Pixhawk. And what it did was it returned the accelerometer values and other values from the Pixhawk. So you added the capability for this inside the Pixhawk firmware. And so as you get to know these drones better and better, what most companies do is, you hear about companies are using PX4 software, but what companies do is they take the basic PX4 software and they modify it for the purposes that they need. So as far as working it, in professional companies, this is really, really important. So I hope this is something I really want to focus on in the future, firmware development. I think I only know how to do this for PX4, and I'm not that interested in Autopilot. And I don't know how you do that with the FPVs. The FPVs are interesting in that they have a different kind of functionality that in the actual configurator program you can specify various commands and logic that you can add. I didn't go into that in this series, maybe I should have. But the main thing I want to focus on in the future is the PX4 development. Then 15 and 16 are not really, they're really to talk about in the future about mission platforms, about uh, actual, if somebody was wanting to create, what kind of actual mission platform would you like to create with a drone? Like, you know, the Ukrainians, they're making these drones. Here's a mine clearance drone idea. This came from a Taiwanese blogger, Mark Space, talking about drones in Ukraine and how about you could use them to detect minefields or to map minefields. Then here's something about, you know, having a drone that it's difficult for somebody to detect it. You try to keep a stealth drone, and stealth means not so much that it doesn't have a radar section, because it doesn't have a radar section because it's so small anyway, but that you don't have wireless emissions so much. Here's an interesting minefield mapping from a Ukrainian company, Militarny. I apologize for some of this minefield. This is in Ukrainian. This one is in Chinese, I think. Yeah, Taiwanese. And if you actually watch the video. And so I spent a lot of years in China and Russia, so I know the languages. Ukrainian's very, very similar to Russian. The languages are very similar. So, but in Ukrainian and in the Chinese websites, Taiwanese websites, a lot of really, really good information about drone technology. And here's another one about target lock-on. So about, you know, you build a drone. Sorry for anyone watching this who's, you know, anti-military, but the idea that, you know, the drone could recognize a target, a person, and then even if the drone lost contact, if somebody jammed the drone as it's coming into the target, the drone could still lock onto that target and continue onto the target even without the operator. So this is just a few things right now, but the idea is mission platforms in the future. I'll focus more on that. And the last thing, special projects. Like I just talked about the stealth drone before. I actually spent a lot of time on the stealth drone idea because I was working with some people who were wanting to a fiber optic drone in Ukraine, and so where you just had a fiber optic cable, and the drone didn't make wireless transmissions, but everything went over fiber. It's a lot more complicated than I thought. A problem with this is, you know, first of all, you got to figure out how to get that fiber cable to come out without getting, you know, jammed up or something, tangled. But the other thing is, these FPV drones were not designed to be flown by wire. So you'd have to get your RC wireless connections, your any kind of telemetry signals, all this wireless communication that it's designed for. You have to find a way to run this over a wired connection, or, you know, a fiber optic cable. And when I started working with these guys, I was pretty new to drone. I hadn't even flown my first drone, and so I was working with them for a little while, but, you know, I didn't have the skills they needed, and so I don't know if their project ever succeeded or not. But there's a very good Ukrainian YouTube. These YouTubes are Ukrainian Chinese. I watch a lot of those, and also German. But the translation software is pretty good. So you just turn on the translation, and and what he's saying here is, you know, you're wanting it to work when you've got really strong electronic warfare, or you know, you're being jammed and stuff. So the Another thing is for special projects is the transmitter receiver development. That transmitter, the thing with the sticks, and then the receiver. Yeah, at some point, I'd like to explore that more about how that's set up, how it works. And I've got a small document on the Gdrive right here. Wrote a small document about it, some of the information I've collected. And then radar, putting radar on it, and optical flow or range finders. There's lots of interesting stuff. And there's more and more things as time goes by because the technology is getting really good and really cheap. You can put some very sophisticated stuff on a very, very small copter. And that's only going to be more true in the future, special projects. Yeah, so here's like a video, like a Microsoft Word file. And about building this HTX. HTX is what's like the firmware that runs on the radio controller. And I just tried some things, collected some basic information about how that's all set up. What's interesting is when I watch many of these expert videos, I got the impression that they know the parts, all the parts that are part of the radio controller, but I didn't get the impression that they really understood how they're all connected, how they all work, and I'd like to understand that sometime. Anyway, that's Epic 5, pretty much. And that is the last video. I don't know if anybody's going to be watching these videos, but this video series, hopefully I make these a little bit shorter. 15 minutes is way too long. But my goal here is to give a quick overview of the wiki. And so I'll redo these in the future and make them better.